Martin Popoff from the Contrarians here, back again with another edition of Reliving Old Reviews as a useless tool of confusion. This is the show where we look at an old review of an old classic album and see if the writer got it right, boots on the ground at the time sort of thing. So today we are looking at a review of Pink Floyd Animals. There's a copy of Animals right there, signed by Roger Waters. I had to trade for this one. I didn't get this one myself, but I just adore Roger. I needed a Roger autograph, so there you go. Touched by the hand of God, right? So we are looking at a review of that album, the great 1977 album. This is from this edition of Trouser Press, the great Phil Lynott on the cover, and it is a review by Danny Cornetz. Okay, so let's read this and see what Danny has to say about Pink Floyd Animals. Obviously the whole situation here is it's been 2 years since the last album. And by the way, we've still got this available. You can go to martinpopoff.com and get my big Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon 50 Years book in the sleeve like that. And yeah, so this is 2 years since Wish You Were Here and 2 more years since Dark Side, right? And punk has started. Let's see how Pink Floyd does, and let's see if there's any mentions of what's going on in music in this review besides prog kind of thing, right? Okay, so Danny writes, thick textured chunks of sound are still audible on Pink Floyd's Animals, another ambitious work which sometimes bears close resemblance to the group's Wish You Were Here. I absolutely agree with that. They seem to be falling into more of a pattern. I find more, similarity between Wish You Were Here and Animals than Dark Side. Dark Side is a little more drums and electric guitar and stuff, although it's not obviously not heavy, but just that real acoustic feel, right? Lyrically, Roger Waters is still probing the macabre. Here he has hammered some old material into a new framework. Fans will recognize Dogs and Sheep on the new album as Gotta Be Crazy and Raving and Drooling, Now Bleeding and Babbling, respectively. Interesting. So he knows the whole past of them playing some of these, working some of these songs out live previously. Apart from these tracks, which are basically 2.5 years old, Animals also contains Pigs and 2 brief acoustic selections which open and close the LP. On the cover, a giant pig floats mysteriously amid strange industrial buildings. Of course, this is London, right? Battersea Station situation. We know that whole pig story. I've heard it from a few people on the ground there, how all that worked. And in the end, this was just kind of like pasted in old school. The whole point of sticking it all up there turned out to be a little bit of a fizzle kind of thing, right? Okay, where were we here? On the cover, are they slaughterhouses? The cover photography is superb as usual, a hypnosis package chronicling the flight of the inflatable pig. We know that Roger got into a big tiff with Storm and Poet Hypnosis over sort of like whose idea was all this for this cover kind of thing, and it caused a break, and those guys would not be back for the wall, right? But I love the idea of this being slaughterhouses. That's kind of a cool extra layer put on this, because nobody ever says that, because it's not that, right? But it's nice how it ties in with the theme. Conceptually, the record explores the parallels that can be drawn between human and animal behavior. People are likened to dogs who put the knife to each other's backs, pigs who perform charades, and sheep who are prey to the dogs and pigs. Nice synopsis there, and it is a really cool idea. For an album. This is my favorite Pink Floyd album, actually. Musically, there are few surprises. I totally agree with that. The playing doesn't sound as inspired as early efforts. Nevertheless, some parts are as brilliantly conceived as ever. The beginning of Pigs sports clever electronic noises, while the middle section of Sheep features an unlikely alteration of the Lord's Prayer, as heard through the harmony vocoder and electronic signal processor. Overall, the sound stays faithful to Floyd's usual excellent technical quality, although unlike Dark Side and Wish You Were Here, this was not recorded at Abbey Road. Also, there aren't many groups around that produce themselves this well. Remember, this album could always serve as a test record if you don't like the songs. Yeah, true. It is a guitar, bass, and drums record ultimately when it comes down to it. Obviously not a hard rock version of that. It's also a short record. That's always kind of annoyed me a little bit about some of these prog albums at the time. You know, we always complain about Van Halen records being short or Kiss records being short, but, you know, Pink Floyd sometimes did that and Rush sometimes did that, right? So although disappointing to those of us who prefer Pink Floyd at their most experimental, this album delivers a solid dose of hypnotic rock. True, it's not incredibly experimental, but it is beautifully put together and layered and crafted and conceived in a very, very sober Pink Floyd sort of space. It's absolutely lacking the bells and whistles of The Wall, and it's lacking even compared to Dark Side of the Moon, right? And like I say, it's kind of similar to Wish You Were Here. So although disappointing to those of us who prefer Pink Floyd at their most experimental, this album delivers a solid dose of hypnotic rock. The band's sound is more guitar and vocal oriented than before, and the songs seem simple by comparison to Floyd's usual elliptical and tape loop supplemented entities. Animal doesn't break new ground and will undoubtedly sell well. Hopefully, the inevitable American tour will feature more new material than Pigs Alone. So there you go. Good review. I think Danny really hits it on the head. I mean, Trouser Press is amazing, right? Trouser Press is just legendary for just having been a really good magazine anyway. So there you go. Reliving old reviews is a useless tool of confusion. Let me know in the comments below what you think of my review of this review or Danny's review in itself. Let us know what you think of Pink Floyd the Animals. You can join our Patreon situation, gets you on our panels and stuff. Like I say, I still can supply this. I'll sign them, send them out from my office here in Toronto, and 100 other books or so over at martinpopoff.com. Go listen to some Pink Floyd Animals.